Tenakoto te whānau o Aotearoa Unitarians. Tenakoto nā manahiri, no mai, haere mai, ki tēnei hui topa a te atua, tenakoto, tēnā tātou katoa. Well, welcome to you all to our virtual sanctuary. Today, Christians are celebrating the fourth Sunday of Advent. For those of you who have no idea what that is, it's a season of waiting and expectations and mystery. We think we know what we're waiting for and what to expect under the Christmas tree, but what we will receive is a mystery. It has always been this way. So expect to be surprised and find freedom and joy in the unknowing. It may offer a path or many paths of hope. Let us imagine it as I read these thoughts by Scott Cooper. We bow our heads in order to imagine not one path, but many. We imagine a path forward for those who cannot imagine any path forward because of poor health, financial hardship, family crises, and other roadblocks we cannot begin to understand or imagine. We struggle to imagine a path forward for those who are forced to leave a homeland against their will, and for those unable to leave a war-torn homeland despite their lives being in danger. We imagine a path forward for those who leave their homes to make a better life for their families elsewhere. May we be a welcoming presence along that path toward hope. We come together to imagine a path forward for those of us despairing because we do not seem to know our country nor our neighbors, despite the fact that we have not moved at all. May we be the good we are hoping to find as we travel side by side down the path toward hope. We imagine a path forward for those who feel lonely at this time of year. May we take one another's hands as we walk that path toward community. Truly, we know as we imagine these ways forward and take one another's hands, the paths will lead to hope. The roads will lead to beloved community. And the arc will bend toward justice because we have dared to travel with love in our hearts. If you have a candle, it's time to light our chalice. In this holiday season, may we find peace inside ourselves. May we be peace for those around us. And may we renew our commitment to bring peace with justice to our community and the world. May we be peace. Now, Christians all over the world will be singing this Sunday, O come, Emmanuel. Now, it's a challenge for me to choose some of this music because we're Unitarians. And sometimes the words get in our way. So I've decided to play a purely instrumental version of O come, Emmanuel. If you know the words, you can sing them along to yourself. My reading is Christmas Comes Whether You're Ready or Not by Cynthia Frado. I'm always in a bit of a shock when December 1st arrives on the calendar. I always feel like there should be at least another week beyond Thanksgiving before I can even contemplate the next holiday. You can tell it's an American. I think, however, that beyond the incredible demands of the season, the hardest part to reconcile is the heart is not always in sync with angels, presents, babes in a manger, and the ho, ho, ho that is Christmas. Sometimes it feels like you just go through the motions because that's what is expected. Sometimes I wish Christmas would take a vacation and return midwinter next year. Yet there is something compelling about the fact that Christmas comes no matter what. The celebration of the birth of Jesus comes no matter the season of your heart. The Prince of Peace, the baby that would bring a message of universal equality, compassion, forgiveness, and love, is reborn again and again and again, no matter our state of mind or being, indeed, in spite of it. Perhaps that is the real miracle of the season, that hope and possibility cannot be denied. As I contemplate the state of the world at this moment in time, I cannot think of anything more needed than a reminder of our potential to bring peace and healing and possibility into our lives. We don't always feel it or see it or think it is there, but then there comes Christmas, even when we aren't ready to receive it. A reminder that no matter what season of the heart that we are in, no matter what struggles or grief are consuming us, Christmas will not let us forget the light that was born in us, even on the darkest night of our souls. So even if you can't deal with the razzle, dazzle, and expense of this holiday, at the very least open the inn door and prepare the manger of your heart for the gentle but powerful message that is seeking to be reborn. Never forget that you are a child of the universe, and where there is life, there is light and love and hope waiting to be reborn. Again and again and again. So turn on some twinkling lights, pour yourself a glass of eggnog, and wait for that angel chorus to announce your heart's rebirth. I have another song I want us to have you to enjoy. And you can tell that I'm fond of cello music. Yo-Yo Ma's accompanies the Wexford Carol sung by Alison Krauss. I need to begin this musing with a warning to those who might be triggered by words like Jesus and Christianity. On the Sunday before Christmas, I give myself permission to express some of my thoughts and ideas about progressive Christianity, which are the foundation of my faith. My justification is that both the denominations that make up Unitarian Universalism were progressive Christians before we had a term for it. While Unitarian Universalism no longer identifies only with Christianity, many of our members are progressive Christians, or Christians without God, as I like to call them. For those who are repelled by Christianity, either because they have experienced toxic Christianity, or count themselves among rationalists and humanists, or follow another faith tradition they bring to the mix, I hope learning about the scholarship that has revealed a very different Christianity from what we normally see around us will be both enlightening and beneficial. Much of what I'm going to share with you is from a recently published book called After Jesus, Before Christianity. It reports 10 years of research by a diverse and large seminar of biblical scholars who are part of the West Star Institute. This institute has produced two previous major studies that have greatly broadened our understanding of what Jesus really said and what Jesus really did. In turn, those works have greatly influenced many other scholars and many preachers, including this one. I became an associate fellow of the Institute at its founding 40 years ago. What the scholars focused on were the first 2 centuries following the death of Jesus, and before something that might resemble what we call Christianity today. They had a multitude of questions to explore. How do we perceive the founding story of Christianity? What really transpired during the first 200 years after Jesus? Did early churches exist in the immediate aftermath of Jesus? Were there powerful unseen dynamics behind the emergence of Jesus groups? Did these communities share a cohesive set of beliefs? What about women? Were they imperfect men or in need of fixing? Or boundary violators who sometimes led the way? Were Jesus people being martyred left and right by the Romans? Were there religious info wars between the Orthodox and the heretics? Did Christianity as we know it even exist in those pivotal 2 centuries? The major challenge is the church's master narrative of the 200 years after Jesus. It had conceptualized them by looking back and molding events to fit the beliefs of an already established paradigm. Umberto Eco recounts how the 13th century Italian explorer Marco Polo searched for unicorns and doggedly claimed to have found them. At the time, European culture accepted the existence of these mythical creatures. What he actually discovered were Asian rhinos, animals for which he had no image or language. Marco Polo fell victim to what Eco refers to as background books. These invisible books, Eco writes, are our preconceived notions of the world derived from our cultural tradition. In a very curious sense, we travel knowing in advance what we are on the verge of discovering, because past readings has told us what we are supposed to discover. We see things not as they are, but as we are, the saying goes. It turns out seeing is not believing so much as believing is seeing. Questions will save us from our blindness. They will plunge us into the freedom of unknowing. The first 2 centuries are an era of immense social crisis, transpiring across the Mediterranean world, giving rise to disparate Jesus groups, an array of communities from wisdom schools to supper clubs. Displaced, oppressed, and terrorized, the people in these communities are in search of identity and belonging, of ways to resist violence, torture, and authoritarianism. They capsize the rules of gender. They create diverse documents, hidden transcripts, stories, poems, and songs that disguise their rebellion, offering them strategies and catharsis, inspiring courage, and soothing their heartache. The world today wrestles with its own social crises: terrorism, authoritarianism, displacement, racial, gender, and ethnic oppression, climate change, global pandemics, the breakdown of religious structures, and of democratic institutions. Theoretical physicist Stephen Hawking defines genius as radical humility. When you humble yourself to all that you don't know, he explains, you open yourself to what's possible. In that sense, those 2 centuries after Jesus were not full of implicit Christianness, so to speak, but lots of radical humility. The period had lots of new, not Christian, innovative people, groups, and movements inspired by Jesus, but going in many different directions. The Wexford Institute's scholarly experiment relies on reading history forward. Too often we turn to look back. We fall victim to the fallacy of the inevitable. Because it happened, it had to happen. We use future events to understand the past. This fallacy is a constant temptation because it scares us back into what we already know or into what we think we know. Questions like, how did we get to where we are now, are interested more in the present than the past. Reading history backwards blinds us to the open character of the future. When we approach history backwards, we are always informed by the present. Here we are in the 21st century with diverse forms, traditions, and structures of Christianity, and of Unitarianism, I might add. The question up to this point has been, how did we wind up in this place? We look to the past, seeking our links. Here are the steps that got us here. Here are the causes that led to these effects, with an emphasis much more on those effects we experience in the present than causes we identify in the past. We've been trying to construct a building from the top. Building a skyscraper, however, does not begin with the penthouse. The master narrative of Christianity has been the traditional way in which history was read backwards. It refers to the conventional story of early Christianity, the notion that the origins of Christianity are settled, in need of no new data. This big story is stuck in our heads, not as a fact, and despite our often knowing better. Here's the basic outline of that master narrative. Jesus came down from heaven to establish the Christian church. He was a fantastic person whose birth marks the very beginnings of civilizations. He taught the truth and did God-sized things. He handed on his complete teachings to his most loyal followers, the apostles. These apostles then relayed correctly to the bishops of the early church all of the great things Jesus said and did. These first bishops correctly passed down Jesus' teachings and magnificent deeds to the next 2+ centuries of bishops. The faithful line of bishops summarized perfectly Jesus' teachings and acts in the 4th century Nicene Creed, which carried full truth and authority to the 21st century. The idea that the master narrative's assumption that Christianity acted as a unified, continuous early tradition in unbroken line representing a single truth makes little sense. That is why members of the Wexford Seminar questioned and ultimately rejected the master narrative of Christianity's birth. Much new research points to multiple and different stories of Jesus people, not Christians, in the first 2 centuries. The seminar's work on these first 2 centuries resembles not a predestined master story, but more a set of mosaic tiles in the process of being pieced together. Many pieces are still missing, and at times some pieces pop into unexpected places. More accurately, these vibrant, many-shaped tiles work to create not one story, but many. The picture of the Jesus peoples of the first 2 centuries ends up more like the view inside a kaleidoscope, the tiles shifting and the picture changing with each turn of the cylinder. It is important for Unitarians and Universalists to know that both of our stories were each a tile. As later forms of Christianity began to be viewed as more orthodox, advocating proper belief and practice, the master narrative heavily influenced European and American societies, projecting proper Christianity's own power and belief systems back onto the earliest centuries. Writers of the master narrative reduced a wide variety of ideas, stories, and poetics to a simple either-or of orthodoxy or heresy. This self-serving manipulation diminished the breadth of practice and experimentation of early Jesus people. If we stand on the ground of Rome, of Athens, of urban and rural spaces around the Mediterranean in the first 2 centuries in the Common Era, we do not see anything resembling contemporary Christianity, or for that matter, Christianity, as it was in the later ancient world, in the Middle Ages, or across human history. In the first 2 centuries, what we think of as Christianity did not exist. What happens when we approach the first 2 centuries forward rather than backwards? What happens if we start at the beginning and see what happens from there, taking one careful step forward at a time, with minds open to an unknown, unassumed future? This groundbreaking holistic approach yields incredible and surprising results. The discoveries we encounter show us, among other things, a world of Roman violence, the emergence of new genders and forms of family, and an Israel both creative and traumatized. There is so much more to share with you about this crucial time. I may have to break my rule and speak to these learnings more than once in the new year. For what I take away from this work is that in many respects, they were us and we are them. UU values were strongly present in the diverse tiles found in those first 2 centuries. One of the things you could say about UU churches and fellowships is that, like those in the first 2 centuries, no two are alike, like those early tiles. They differ greatly in many ways, except one. They are all committed to the 7 principles. In my imagination, the 7 principles are the embodiment of Jesus. He encompassed all of them. However, how we interpret them and live them out in our deeds varies greatly. I'm not troubled by this lack of uniformity. In fact, it is a reason to rejoice. It provides an environment for creativity, often lacking in institutions, religious or otherwise, that impose a master narrative on their past. stifling their future. Instead, we choose to plunge into the freedom of unknowing. Max mentioned a former interim in our congregation, David Rankin. Here's a meditation on Advent. During the Advent season, we celebrate the qualities of faith, hope, love, and joy. Yet these must be viewed through the prism of paradox. No faith is worthy without the capacity to doubt all things, for then it is only credulity. No hope is possible without the specter of defeat in the wings, for then it is only dreaming. No love is strong without the dread of loss in the heart, for then it is only passion. No joy is complete without the certainty of sorrow in the future, for then it is only frivolity. Thus, it is wrong to mislead people with simplistic notions, for they distract us from the fullness of life. After all, the seas have storms, the clouds have lightning, and the roses have thorns forever. I played another version of this next song, our closing song, not too long ago, but I think it's appropriate for today's theme. It is Peter Meyer's Holy Now. Beautiful pictures. And part of the reason I chose that for today is I believe that that song captures what Christmas is all about. Because I think I would have been in a tile that understood the birth of Jesus as something that made everything holy, not just those gods that we might have worshipped. That he spread, the historical Jesus spread his holiness to all parts of creation. And that's why I continue to be what I would call a progressive Christian, or at least a progressive Jesus person. My closing words: blessed are you in whom the light lives, in whom the brightness blazes, your heart a chapel, an altar where in the deepest night can be seen the fire that shines forth in you, in unaccountable faith, in stubborn hope, in love that illumines every broken thing it finds. And now, time to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Because you've been a great congregation through this pandemic and been faithful in attendance to our Sunday Zoom, I thought you should have a bonus song. And I think you might enjoy it. It's time for our small group breakouts. And here's your question. How has your future been different than you anticipated?